Alright guys, here's a review I know some of you have been waiting for. It's Spongebob Creature from the Krusty Krab on the GameCube, released in 2006. Now as a kid, I don't really remember this game at all. My childhood was finishing up when this game was coming out, and I never actually got around to it, and I only remember one level of the game. But more on that one later. So as someone who religiously watches SpongeBob and loves the previous games, what do I think of this game? Let's find out. This will be a total dissection of the game, so expect massive spoilers. The story is really weird in this game. If you remember the episode where SpongeBob went into his friend's dreams and turned it into a video game. Basically, all you are given for the story is that you're in like a dream. Like, that's it. Really. You go through SpongeBob, Patrick's, and Plankton's dreams, and they all come together as one. The ending in particular makes even less sense, and I really have to ask, what is the story? Like, it is barely explained to you at all, and by the end it's pretty stupid. And it's because of like Patty's or something, or it's Gary's dream, or I don't even know. The story is really confusing, more like it's just confusing to even me, an 18-year-old, so I don't know what a child is supposed to think. Okay, so confusing storyline aside, how does the game play? Is it a return to form from the movie game? No, not really. There's three types of gameplay in the game. There's driving, third-person shooting, and action, and a rail shooter. Instead of focusing on one main type of gameplay, they spread these three types on 9 levels for the most part. You play as 3 different characters in the game: SpongeBob, Patrick, and for the first time ever, Plankton. Each level, I can say, is very different from the last with a lot of variety. Let's start with what you will be doing the least in the game: driving. I'm playing on the GameCube, so I'll go off the GameCube controls. Use the A button to accelerate and the B button to brake, and that's it. It's on Kirby Air Ride Basic. This game tries to be arcadey with a timer, checkpoints, and multiple laps. The game will tell you it's a race, but it's actually not. Just finish and you'll win. There's only 2 courses in the game also. One of them you race like 4 times on, with it slightly changing each time. The second one is in SpongeBob's subconscious and is really weird. There's boost pads, turns, and jumps even. But really, that's it for the driving. It's pretty basic and average, and not in a Kirby Air Ride fun way. The second type of gameplay in the game is the rail shooting, or it's kind of third person, you know what I mean. In these sections, you are on a set path where you rapidly tap the A button to shoot. Along the way, you will need to collect fuel for your rocket or plane. There's fuel all over the place, and whenever you get hit by something, you lose some of it. There is 2 rail shooter levels. One is Patrick in space, which is admittedly cool, and the second is SpongeBob in a plane trying to escape from Plankton and then fighting Plankton. The third type of gameplay is what you'll be doing most in the game, the third-person action platformer, and for one level it's 2.5D. This is the majority of the game. Each character has their own special abilities and unique level design. SpongeBob can spin, stretch his arms out for platforming and attacking. He can put a Viking hat on and charge at enemies that are blocking. He can turn into a weight and turn cranks. That's it for SpongeBob. To say he's downgraded from the last, 3 games, that would be an understatement. He feels far less powerful from the last time and has all around less moves. The enemies for SpongeBob are also less powerful, and there's only like 2 in the whole game. There's the standard spin and destroy immediately enemy, and then there's these shielded enemies which require SpongeBob to charge at them. And that's it. So while SpongeBob can do a lot less stuff, there's a lot less enemy types, and really less stuff in general. Most of the time SpongeBob, you're just platforming with him or collecting something, whether it's plane parts or machine parts or even your driver's license, you're just collecting something. There's only 2 sections in the game where you play SpongeBob on foot. At the stadium in the first level when you're not driving, and the second one is in an Alaskan bullworm.
It was an Alaskan bullworm!
Next is Patrick, who also has 2 levels of platforming and beat-em-up action. Patrick can spin, like in the movie game. He can ground pound and blow on enemies so hard that they die. And you can use, you can blow on fans to make them move. Yeah, blow. That's it for Patrick's moves. So if you thought SpongeBob was basic, Patrick's a whole new level of basic. And there's really there's only one type of enemy pretty much for the whole game, and that's the starfish that you fight, or Plankton. You spin once or twice, maybe even thrice, to defeat them, and that's it. All these characters have 5 health points to be exact also. And then there's the first level for Patrick, which is him in a comic book level fighting evil Starfish Man and his goons, while the second one has Patrick on rooftops trying to stop Plankton. Speaking of Plankton, that's the last character you play as. Just like everyone else, he has 2 dedicated levels. The first is really weird. It's this 2.5D platformer where you're running from a giant Krabby Patty trying to hurt you. Plankton can jump, double jump, and freeze stuff. His freeze gun is his only ability for this level, and the level itself is pretty straightforward. The second level is when Plankton gets his enlarger working and becomes giant. He then is chasing after the big Krabby Patty through Bikini Bottom. As giant Plankton, he can destroy stuff with a 1-2-3 combo, stomp the ground for an earthquake, and shoot lasers out of his eye. Your goal is pretty much to destroy everything here. The police try to stop you, but Plankton mows through them. So that is the entirety of the gameplay. Each level is an incredibly linear, more so than the movie game, and there's really nothing to collect at all. There's these like cell looking things, but I'm not sure what they do. Maybe they unlock a hidden level or something after the 9th level. I'm not sure what they unlock. If someone could tell me, that would be nice. There's also these Z coins, which to my knowledge do nothing. You can replay the best levels in the game also. In terms of presentation, this game looks okay at best. For 2006, it could be a lot better. As a GameCube game from 2006, it looks just average. It doesn't look any better really than the movie game, which used the same graphics engine as Battle for Bikini Bottom. The Wii and 360 version definitely look under average for their systems though. Even the Wii version, I'll say. The models in the game look okay for the most part. SpongeBob, Patrick, and Plankton look okay. They look fine, they really do. Everyone else though in the game just looks really bad. They lack any detail really, and some models close up look hideous and super blurry. The giant Krabby Patty looks awful. I mean, it looked fine in the movie game, so what happened here? It animates awfully also. The animation in the game is terrible. The last 3 SpongeBob games had better animation. The characters have like a set animation loop, and will do the same animation over and over and over and over and over in cutscenes, and it looks dumb as hell. The animations themselves aren't horrible, but they continue it over and over and over. The same animation. Like, what the hell? The lip syncing is atrocious. The talking doesn't even try to match up with the animation, since it's just a set path of animations. I mean, their mouth will be moving when they're not even talking. The worst is SpongeBob though, with his long animations in cutscenes, where his mouth barely moves, but he's talking the whole time. And sometimes his mouth won't be moving and he's talking. The textures in the game are just strange, really. This game is weird as hell, but I got some stuff that is just more creepy than weird. The textures are kind of cartoony, or at least in the back, and the up-close ones are just blurry, but those can pass. Also, for the first Patrick level, it's kind of cel-shaded, which admittedly looks cool, but can really just strain the eyes. The graphics are really just mixed in general, and while some can argue the last couple SpongeBob games looked mixed, these are budget titles. They won't look amazing, but with that in mind, this game still looks pretty mixed, and a bit outdated for 2006. Games like Shadow of the Colossus were out. Okay, maybe that's not a fair game. Games like Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Republic Commando were out, and they look a hell of a lot better. Okay, that's not comparable. Okay, even Katamari was out. Oh, you get the point I'm making here. The sound in the game doesn't really fare much better. The music in the game, I can say I really don't remember, actually, most of it. It wasn't really catchy for the most part and lacked any charm. I thought the last 4 SpongeBob games had great soundtracks, but this game really it only has a few tracks I remotely even like. I can count on one hand how many songs I like or even remember. I wouldn't say it's terrible, it's just disappointing considering the last couple games' soundtracks. The music, it's better than the average game, I can give it that much, and the quality's good, even though I had a few sound glitches, but I'm sure it's just my disc. The voice acting in the game is really, really mixed. I mean, I want to love it, but for some reason I don't. I love Plankton and Patrick, but SpongeBob, there's just something not right about his voice acting. It's okay, just not as good as I want it to be. The other characters besides those 3 voice acting, it's just awful. It's just the worst. There's these announcers, and they aren't funny at all, and they just come off as really annoying. They just have really nothing good to say, and I can just say that for the entire cast. That's not the 3 main characters. You can forget about them. They're not even worth mentioning. Okay, so I'm sure you're wondering, does John even like this damn game or not? Well, I'm going to talk about what I don't like about the game now. First, in the presentation department, Besides the bad voice acting, animations, and lip syncing, the frame rate died on me a couple times, and there was a bit of screen tearing in the cell shaded levels. Not huge issues though.
Hold! Hold! Hold!
All right.
Okay, it's not that bad, but one very big issue with the game is the game's opening, the first two levels, and first impressions. Now, one reason I took ages to finish this game, because I got it like 2 years ago off Amazon, but it took me ages to finish this game, was because the first impressions I got from it, and why I know a lot of people don't like it, is based off the very first two levels of the game. I went into this game with very low expectations. Then I got put into a driving level with no explanation at all. I thought it was really strange and the driving was kind of boring. It was over and I was platforming. I soon got bored of this and realized how basic it was, even compared to the last two main Spongebob games that were much more developed. Then I finished that and thought it was another level. Well, surprise, it's more driving. Well, this level goes on for a whole hour. And when I was done, I was like, finally. And then I got to the next level as Patrick. Here I had a bit of fun until about the 50th phone call that Patrick gets when I said this level is taking a while. And then a few minutes later, I was totally bored of it. And just like the first level, it's like another 55-minute level. I never made it past this level for seriously like a year. I did not want to go back to this just dull gameplay, but finally I pressed on, and once you get to Plankton's first stage, the game finally picks up. Now, if you're mad that I just tore this game's first two levels apart, that was just my opinion of them. The first impression I got from this game was awful. The gameplay was very dull, and every level was just taking forever. Really, part of this can be applied to the whole game. The game can be very dull and all around just far too basic for its own good. Battle for Bikini Bottom provided challenging platforming that was interesting and awesome. Creature for the Krusty Krab does not do this. The first level is devoid of any creativity and challenge, and is just all around bad. The Alaskan Bullworm level and the 2.5D sections of the game show some signs of creativity, but nothing even close to the movie game. The combat, I use that term loosely, is about as basic as Revenge of the Flying Dutchmans, but that was the first 3D SpongeBob game. It's just so uninteresting with really generic enemies that require absolutely no strategy at all. The second level as Patrick only highlights this, where literally every enemy is Patrick. They are that uninteresting. This is something that never gets better, and it just stays very boring, dull, and basic. It's just not that fun, and gets old real fast. Take it 10-0 real quick. Then there is the levels that take too long. 3 levels in this game particularly take way too long to finish. The first 2 levels, like I mentioned, take absolutely forever to finish. But then there's the plane level against Plankton as SpongeBob. This level just drags on for far too long. It's hard to believe a game as short as this would have levels that drag on, but that was me for these 3 levels. I just wanted them to end really bad, and that's never a good thing, which leads me to my next problem. Yes, there's more. This game's tone and setting, I feel, is awful. Now, I'm someone who loves SpongeBob. As shitty as the new episodes are, I'll probably still end up watching them. I watch it religiously. I quote SpongeBob probably 5 times a day. I'm not exaggerating. I just love SpongeBob, and as someone who grew up with it, it's just my favorite show to date, and my favorite movie of all time is the SpongeBob movie. The old one, not the new one. So that's why it really pains me to say this, but this game does not feel like a SpongeBob game at all. With the exception of one level, I did not feel like I was playing a SpongeBob game, and in my opinion, that's the worst sin for a TV show video game. I felt like I could have been playing any license for a majority of these levels. The writing is just not that good for the most part, and the game barely references the show at all. Like, the first level has literally nothing to do with SpongeBob. Oh, besides the characters that show up. And they barely even look like they're from SpongeBob at this point. What the fuck? Why do they look like this? Patrick's comic book level may look cool, but literally represents absolutely nothing from SpongeBob, or has any references of its own. The Alaskan Bullworm level is the worst in this aspect by far, and it feels like a different game entirely in terms of tone. The rest of the levels are really just kind of blah in tone, except for one level, the giant Plankton level. This is easily the best level in the game, And as a kid, it's the only thing I remember from this game, this level. And for a good reason. It's the only level where I recognize it's SpongeBob. It's in Bikini Bottom. It's SpongeBob. And it actually looks like it. It's SpongeBob. And the other levels don't look like Bikini Bottom or SpongeBob. It references other episodes, like SpongeBob. And it isn't so weird that it loses its identity. It is the best level in the game, and it's also the shortest. Yeah, the best level in the game is the shortest level. Now that makes sense. It was also pretty fun. Speaking of short, that's this game in one word, short. It is short, like 6 hours short. And it feels like it just took forever to beat because 3 of these levels take forever. The controls I felt, they weren't the best. They felt a little too loose, and Plankton controlled a bit weird when he was giant, to say the least, going from slow to walking or whatever. Though I know it could be a lot worse. I could be playing it on the Wii. Okay though, wow, that's a lot of negativity about the game. I know some people will defend this game and say its weirdness is cool and whatever, but it's not SpongeBob-esque design, and I personally don't really like it that much.
Chocolate? Did you say chocolate?
Yes, sir. With or without nuts.
Chocolate? Chocolate! 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 Chocolate!
But all in all, do I really like this game? Not really. I mean, I'm really just kind of mixed with this game. When it comes to games that are just really mixed, this is like at the top of my list. Games like Deadly Premonition or DMC, forget that. This is just so mixed, in my opinion. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not great or really good at all, but somehow manages to stay above shovelware, like that I could give this game. The general response to the game online seems to be that you either hate it or you think it's a great game, and I'm stuck really in between both of them. I mean, I think it has a few redeeming qualities like the Plankton levels, and some people might like how strange it is, but then again, I'm bored with its level design, and for the most part, it doesn't feel like a SpongeBob game at all. And it seems very okay at everything, but the game just gets crushed by a heap of bad things. The game was not made by Heavy Iron Studio, and it shows. They made Truth is Square next, which I've never played, and I'm not going to play. I mean, I don't really care about it. But I'm really mixed about this game. If I had to say deep down, I don't like it. I mean, between the bad writing, awful first impressions, and how much of a step backwards it is from the last 3 SpongeBob games and its shoddy presentation, I don't like it. But as a reviewer, I don't think this game's awful. I mean, it's functional. The game never glitched on me, except maybe once. And it was totally playable and finishable. I mean, do I recommend it? No, not really. Not even the most die-hard SpongeBob fans will probably find something worthwhile here. I mean, I don't really understand how some people like it so much, because I don't. I mean, if you grew up with the game, I'm sure you're going to have fond memories of it, but that wasn't me. So, I mean, that's my review on the game. I mean, I waited such a long time to play this, and I probably should have just left it a childhood mystery. So I'll see you guys in my next review, and hopefully it'll be a less disappointing game to me. And don't kill me.